Hello and welcome to episode 14 of Pause, Rewind and Play. I'm Kim, the content marketing specialist for Veterinary. In today's episode, we speak with Gemma Barmby, who is a veterinary business consultant at Vet Dynamics and is a key senior experienced veterinary surgeon herself. We look at navigating the same sea with a different boat. So we've been through COVID and now we're in the cost of living crisis. And we kind of joke about it at what point do we stop using the word unprecedented? And I don't think it's ever, because there's always going to be another storm, more chaos, and something else that we just think, wow, this is crazy. But nonetheless, Gemma offers us the golden nuggets, the wisdom that we need to navigate these stormy waters. And one of my favorite things about Gemma is that she is super practical. And not only do we look at the global shortage, mental health, which are obviously commonly spoken about subjects, but when it comes to things like commercial aspects, something that veterinary practices may be a little less comfortable with, things like putting prices up, that can be a scary thing. And here's one of my favorite pieces of advice that Gemma provides. If your suppliers have put their prices up, but you haven't put yours up, you could be making a loss and at best break even. And that's a very dangerous position to be in, because if you don't have that cash to put back into the business, you can't do things like give your staff a well-deserved salary increase. And it's time to look at things like your key suppliers, your lab services, your phones, your internet, your pharmacy supplies, and all the areas where you can cut costs, save costs, and keep yourself on the black side of the line. And most importantly, do not be afraid to increase your prices. Let's dive into this really interesting episode. Hey Gemma, welcome to Pause, Rewind and Play. It's awesome to have you. And obviously you are a business consultant at Vet Dynamics, and you're also a vet. So this is going to be really interesting for our audiences. And as you know yourself, Veterinary has recently released and published an ebook on the latest veterinary trends, challenges, and solutions for what's happening ahead in this year, especially in the cost of living crisis. And it's been really popular. We've had over 500 downloads because people are interested in what other practices are doing, how to navigate this crazy landscape. And to put it over to you, it would be great if you could firstly give us a background of your story, what you do, and what your general thoughts are for this year ahead.
That's great. Thanks, Kim, and thanks for Veterinary for having me on for this podcast. So yes, I'm a vet. I'm one of those vets. Graduated in 2014, which I'm ignoring the fact that's coming up to nearly a decade ago now, with everything, and went through the kind of motions of veterinary life and became a senior vet, and then went on to locum to see what else was out there, and that's when I came across Vet Dynamics. We're obviously a very small world in veterinary, and my interests were very much more in team development, business development. How can I do more to help more people was kind of how I looked at it, and through the locuming aspect realised that we have some very good parts of our industry, some not so great parts, and a lot of those issues are endemic across all. It's very much a same sea, different boat situation. So made contact with Vet Dynamics, loved what they did, was going to join them, and then the pandemic hit in March 2020, which changed things up a little bit. And then during that time, I became a clinical director of a 4-branch practice that runs its own out of hours, and sort of went through the motions in that time frame, and doing all of that and learning some more on the ground skills, and then joined Vet Dynamics back in July 2021. Yes, so I always get the years right with that and haven't looked back since. So it's a fantastic position to be in, kind of using my experience, knowledge, skills to help more practices and everything. So it's a fantastic role and a very wonderful company to work for, and work with some fantastic people as well. So it's as you said, this year is a bit of a crazy one. I think we can stop using the word unprecedented at some point, perhaps, after COVID and all of those things. Exactly that. So it's I think this is quite an exciting time. As you said, there's you guys' ebook and looking forward, what are the trends going to be? But I think this year, as we were saying, sort of, it's 3 years post COVID in theory, technically, but actually a chance to look forward, actually see what can I do, be sort of think bigger. And as weird as that may sound, but actually to look beyond what's just in front of us. Generally, as vets, we're very good at seeing what's in front of us. We see emergencies, things come in, the daily grind. But I think it's really important to actually think, what is it that I want to achieve this year, the next 3 years? Where do I want to go? And have a plan for that. And actually look, what are the big things that are going to make a difference to me, my practice, my people? And I think that's a really key thing, is be people focused, team focused, and actually invest in our people. Mental health is such a big thing across our industry, every industry, let's be honest. COVID did really highlight that. I think a lot of people took some time to reflect back of what they want from life, and to actually think about moving forward with our people, bring them on the journey, focus on your people. And yes, cost of living. I think that's kind of how can I focus on my people when bills are mounting and people want bigger salaries, that kind of thing. I'm going to use the word resources, which is a horrid word for people, but actually use your resources sensibly. The money, time, and your people. We're in a recruitment crisis. What other crisis can we highlight at this point? But actually, we've got so many skilled people. Using them effectively, get them feeling that they're contributing the best, the most that they can, will make a big difference. So people, make a plan and use what you've got in a sensible manner. And I think planning is always the biggest thing. That's what I talk to my guys about a lot, is to kind of think beyond the next month, try and think bigger, which can be scary.
Which can be a tough thing to balance if some practices are slowly trying to survive at the moment, and then having to look ahead can seem like another huge task.
Absolutely, that overwhelm piece is really, really common. Like, you're not alone in that. It's that everyone feels that, oh my god, there's so much to do. I've got to deal with the day-to-day life in practice, keeping the books in the black and kind of everything's due. It's really, really hard. So start small, scrape out a little bit of time where you can focus on the bigger picture. So a lot of people in practice are practice owners, and they're also clinicians. They've got things to be doing, and they go, I can't get time. I physically can't. Yeah, that might be true. I'll be honest, a lot of guys say that, but try and give yourself half an hour, if that's what it is, to carve out half an hour. If you can carve half an hour, an hour. Go to a morning. If you can get half a day a week to start with, to think on the big picture stuff, what we sort of say is working on your business, not in it, that's more strategic side of things, it will pay off. Because a lot of the stuff that we end up doing daily, that kind of stuff that's really urgent in front of us, tends to be generated from not having a plan or thinking bigger. If we actually put our time, our precious time, into thinking about that bit, we tend to then not have so much urgent in front of us, kind of running and almost falling over piece. So it's hard, but start small and build it up, and actually congratulate yourself when you can get to that point.
And I think that's something that will stick. And it's something that's really memorable, which is work on your business, not in your business. It can be so easy to fall back or fall behind, but what you really need to do is stay on top of things. And the way that you can do that is just gifting yourself the pleasure of time, even though it feels like you have none. But like you said, it's a step, it's not the whole trek. But if you can take that step or 5 steps, and then you're already winning.
Exactly that. It is that thing. And I think, we're only human. Let's be honest, we're only human, and we'll say these things, we'll do it, and then we'll fall back into old habits. But it's recognizing that and going, right, actually, no, what am I going to do to get that time back? And with the recruitment aspect we've got at the moment, particularly for those with clinical skills, well, I'm needed on the floor. I'm needed on the floor. And absolutely may well be. But if you keep getting yourself pulled into that cycle is just going to repeat itself.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle that needs to be broken. But I do think for every guest that we've had on this podcast and the ebook, with the research that was conducted, of course, it highlighted that one of the biggest issues, as you mentioned, was the recruitment and retention. And therefore, that is also one of the big reasons that you need to invest in your people, in your resources. And that obviously has a knock-on effect on staff retention, staff recruitment, staff motivation, the morale, the happiness, the productivity, the efficiency of the practice. It has such a huge outcome on how successful it's going to be.
Absolutely. If you've got a manic practice and you manage to hook a vet and you've done really well as the first step, but you throw them into an absolutely chaotic environment, it's not going to work long term. That person is going to feel that overwhelm as well. It's, you work with what you've got, make it better, plan to go, right, we are limited right now. Okay, what can we do about it is that big question. Again, human brains, we always go to the negative. It's a survival instinct, it's natural. But we don't tend to face saber-toothed tigers anymore, generally. Depends on the cat that you're seeing, perhaps. But there's that level that we still have that same reaction to it. And we want to try and not be so reactive, more proactive about things wherever possible, and to sort of work with what we've got to go, how can we make this better with what we've got right now? What are my resources in that sense? Working more efficiently, more effectively. That's really more appealing then to somebody who's coming to look for employment, to know that you've got a plan, you've got a practice that's there, that's got a vision, something that you're working towards, you're going to be part of something. And it helps with the team you've already got. As you said, with retention, you want to keep the good ones. You do want to keep hold of those good people, which involves investing in your people, which investing, we think money, absolutely, by all means, that side of things, but also your time with your people. And again, comes back to time, right? And how we give that, but actually giving time to your people, giving them the space to talk to them, to talk about their own development, their struggles, what they see for the practice, really makes a difference and makes people feel valued. That's where we can move away from them being a human resource, a cog in a machine, but recognizing people for people. And we all bring something different. I think that's the key thing as well. And you may not know what skills your team have. And how would you know unless you speak to them? So that's kind of the first step, is to...
I think the upside of looking for time, looking for space in your diary or your calendar where you're not trying to cram it in, but rather a period of reflection, which allows you to stand back and objectively look at what are staff or yourself spending time on the wrong things? Are we spending time too long in one place and should be reallocating or reassigning on different things? And it can actually be a really fulfilling exercise where you can just remap and replan everything in the right way that would be beneficial for everyone.
Absolutely. Is this that readjustment, that big overview picture to see what's going on, where can we, if you can scrape back 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, over time that will add up and you realize how much more you can achieve in that. So absolutely, reflection is super key to take that moment. And from a level of also looking at the positives, what have you achieved? Because again, the human brain is very good at looking at the negatives and seeing what the gap, what haven't I done, what's next, but actually to go look where we were. And at some point we'll stop mentioning COVID perhaps, but you've made it through that. Yes, there's still maybe a little bit of a survivor mentality, completely fair, and kind of just keeping going, but you've done that. That's a massive achievement. And go, right, what can I learn from that as well? Is that's the key part of reflection, is what worked well, what did I do differently, what did we do differently, how are we still here, how are we doing it, what can we take forward with it? So things like tech, particularly during COVID, was a big bit, perhaps some of us perhaps a bit slower to adapt to that. Let's be honest, we are generally a slower burn industry in adapting to new things, particularly technology wise, but that did help and benefit, and ways of getting teams to work more efficiently with less staff as well.
So what would you say for those that are either startup practices or newly established, and perhaps the founder, owner, practice manager has no idea where to start, or doesn't feel like they have perhaps enough commercial expertise or how to run a business in terms of their planning? Are there any resources that you would recommend, suggest, or how to get started in the first place?
Yeah, I think doing a lot of research is a kind of key thing. I'm a research person, that's definitely it. And find someone to talk to. There are a lot of, consultants and people out there. Obviously, from my background at Vet Dynamics, we work with startups, we work with established practices, a whole variety of people, and that gives a wonderful wealth of information. But actually find someone you can talk to, somebody who knows what to do and how to help, and just have a sounding board. Often that coaching mentoring aspect makes a big difference when you can vocalize out your thoughts with it all. And again, it is overwhelmed at the beginning. That's what it feels like. There's so much to do, but to start thinking about, what is it that I want, what am I trying to achieve here? That is that vision piece. What is it that I want to do differently? If you set up by yourself, we've newly taken over practice, there's a reason for that. What is that reason? To give you that sort of North Star overarching piece, and then to go, right, what are the practical steps then that I need to do to make that come true? There'll be lots of pieces. Again, it's the try not to do it all at once. Focus on certain areas first. Do sort of say 3 things perhaps that are going to have the biggest impact, and break those down to have those 3 aims that you're going to look at over the next year, and then break those down into what you're going to focus on for the next quarter. What are the actual physical steps? Some people find them making that into a monthly and then a weekly thing. What if I achieve these 3 things this week, that's weeks of success.
Yeah.
But that planning step is absolutely key. But before that, you need to know why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good piece of advice, to focus on 3 things, so then it just doesn't become an endless list of things where you're just kind of feeling chaotic. But I would also add that for any commercial business, it's really savvy to think about the SMART analogy, so specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely.
Absolutely.
And that just keeps you focused.
You set those goals. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That. So, it's very easy to sort of say, I want to do X, I want to do Y. The classic one, New Year rolls round, I want to lose weight. Okay, what does that look like? Actually, but what time frame are you going to do that? And actually using that framework, they use a lot in schools and things, really does help you make a psychological contract with yourself if you use that format, because you set that particularly that measurable and time bound aspect to it. Really, really makes a difference. And writing it down or saying it to somebody as well creates another level of reality and accountability, because it's very easy to say things to ourselves. Oh, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. But actually formalizing it, saying it to somebody, pinning it on your wall even, really gives you that piece, and it gives you something to reflect back on. And particularly I'm a fan with reflection. It's not to go, oh, I haven't done that, but look, actually, what have you done within that? Have you made steps forward? Because it's not always going to be big massive things. It can be smaller steps in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think because of human nature, it's almost easier to go after your goals if you've shared it with someone. As you said, it's the accountability piece. And you don't want to, you don't do anything for other people, of course not. You have to just put yourself first always. But I think when you do share it, it's definitely, well, you don't want to disappoint anyone else.
And also there's that network of support, because you can't do everything alone. You really can't, particularly so you've got starting up a new business and things. You can't do it all. You need good people around you that are there to help support, guide. At the end of the day, it doesn't make particularly with, let's say, using the weight example, it probably doesn't matter to others if you lose weight, but they want to support you because they are your mentors, your colleagues, your friends, people around you. Exactly that. And it bolsters you. That human connection is really, really important.
100%. So with everything that we've discussed so far, we spoke obviously about planning and the importance of prioritization, but in juggling all of these different balls. Like how is it best to keep yourself focused, and especially in context of the cost of living crisis? Like people are obviously trying to save really, really hard, but equally at the same time increase nurses' salaries, for example, and make sure there's a healthy cash flow or revenue stream coming into the practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's that first thing is take time for yourself so that you've got to be in your best headspace to be able to help others. That's a really key aspect, and go, right, okay, where can I look? What am I looking at? So if you've got a head for numbers, have a look at your P&Ls, your cash flow. If you've not got a head for numbers, get somebody who can help you. You've got a business, you've got an accountant, you're paying them for that service, use them, get some understanding of what's going on, and go, right, okay, where am I at? So to look then at where you can sort of save pennies, it's going to be more than that in most practices. And the biggest one for a lot of people is where you're spending that. So your suppliers, your stock, those services that you buy in, have a look. Can you get better deals? If it's not you in practice that deals with that, get somebody to look at that. Who is that part of that stock control, your practice manager, to look at that. And again, what ties into that is that we know the cost of everything is going up. And I'll say this, have you guys put your prices up? There's a level that when you go to the supermarket now, it's certainly a lot more expensive than it used to be. I went to the supermarket and bought a can of beans for £1.55 for a singular can of beans, and was like, that's, but if your suppliers have put things up, but you haven't put yours up, you could be making a loss, at best break even. And that's a dangerous point, because you then don't have that cash to put back into the business. So I think that's a sort of key area to look at. All of your suppliers, CREM services, lab services, phones, internet, all of those things, just have a look at that. Might make a difference just to keep you on the the black side of the line. And I would say, don't be afraid to increase your fees. I know that's a bit like, and everyone goes, oh, I can't do that. But obviously, ethically, responsibly, you're not there to rinse people, but people recognize that things are going up. And particularly with the team, I am a fan of speaking to the team about, finances to a degree, is that it impacts them. If they want a raise, you can't give them a raise if there's no money in the bank. Well, how do we do that? We can either do more work, we can be more busy, or actually if we charge a little bit more for it to keep it in line. So by all means, keep it, always say keep in line with inflation. Inflation's quite crazy at the moment, but there's a level of being sensible with it. I think what comes with that, and when we get pushback on increasing fees, is that we're not giving value. That's the real difference. There's a difference between price and value. To actually, again, be people focused, and that means your clients too, to actually understand where they're coming from. And value is to understand their pet, their needs, all of those aspects, what they get in that consult. Value is your receptionist smiling to somebody when they come in their room and booking them in. It's those little things that make a difference, saying the pet's name, fussing the pet, that kind of thing. When you're busy and hectic and you think, I just want to get through these consults, it's easy to lose that, but that's when people feel that it don't matter. And we need to keep giving that value. And a lot of that as well stems back to, what does the practice stand for? Knowing what it is you want to achieve. And where you want to go with that. And there's a lot of conversations now, I think people are asking, well, how much does that cost? What does that cost? Have those conversations with clients. Be open about it. And yes, it might be that you can't do the referral that perhaps you want, but you're a skilled individual. Have those discussions and go, right, okay, we can't do that. What's our next best option? And make that plan, but give that value. And then you're not going to get pushback on increasing prices, which means you can then pay your team more.
Yeah, I think there is absolutely a lot of wisdom in what you've just said, because actually this is the first time that we have openly discussed financial difficulties at a practice, or the prospect of increasing their prices, when every other service, every other industry, every other product provider in the country has done so. But I understand the nature of vets and their practices is being compassionate and being kind, and the big fear of not putting clients off because of the increased price, retaining clients, things like that. But you're 100% correct. The practice has to survive. You need to be able to afford your staff salaries. It's commensurate revenue, and it's something that we spoke about in the ebook as well. It's understanding how you can find ways to keep your practice and operation healthy and profitable. Like, what can you do to make sure that all of these things are ticking away and happening in the right manner? You don't want to be making a loss. Absolutely
Exactly.
not.
And I think it's a real hard one. Profit often seems a dirty word, right? That seems to be a bit like, oh, we can't make profit, because we are a caring industry. That is exactly we do this because we care, we're compassionate, want to work with animals. And that classic phrase of, oh, why don't you just do it for the love of animals? Okay, well, we do, but there's a level of being viable, because eventually if you're unviable, that cycle continues and you're no longer going to be able to be there to provide that service, is the bottom line. And profit, some of that goes to the government. It's not just in your pockets, and it's what then you can do to fund the practice, to put back into it, to hire more people, to get better equipment, to develop your people so you can continue to provide a great service for the patients. So it's not, I think that's the thing of, it's not a dirty word, and don't be afraid of that, but it's, ethically, I think, is the key piece there, is that it's not just
it's just training your mind and behavior to change the relationship with what it means to be abundant in a sense, and having the money coming in. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person or you're doing things unethically. As you mentioned, it's tied back to the overall practice values. And if that embodies lots of good things, and you're taking care of your clients, you're taking care of the animals, and you're doing the best that you can, that's all that matters.
Exactly that, and that varies from practice to practice. I've got a wonderful broad client base, both UK and international, and for some guys it's that I want to be the best, the most techie, the most advanced. Others it goes, I want to be a really good GP vet and serve my community. Both of those are just as admirable, and I think that's that really key bit there, is understanding your clients, understanding your practice, and providing along those lines. But either way, you still need money coming in.
Yeah. So my last question for you is on the technology front. What's your view on the role that technology plays?
I'm a techie. It's probably a bit too far. I like technology. I like to be paper free wherever possible, and very much kind of digital orientated. So I think it can be really, really helpful. There's definitely been a big boom in tech of all the options that are out there now. And then that's the kind of danger point, is all, again, another form of overwhelm, isn't it? There's so many choices. So I think it's key to really think about what is right for you and your practice, and you use it. That's the bit there, is there's so many things, and it's really tempting, isn't it, to kind of, oh, that's new, that's exciting, I'll grab that looks like it does a bit. And people, sales techniques, etc., will pull you in. But tech is really helpful when used correctly. So making sure, what is your pain point in practice? Is it that you want to be more sustainable? And let's be honest, that's quite a big thing now. Do you want to go paperless? Well, how can I go about that? Is it that aspect of time? What can I do that's going to help improve the flow of the day in practice? There are things out there for that. What about your clients? I want to engage with my clients. There are tools out there for that, which also saves time often, particularly a lot now with sort of inbound phone calls. A lot of it's out there to kind of communicate through WhatsApp and app-based products, that side of things, which I myself, I'm very much WhatsApp apps, easy, what is convenient for me, that also then helps in practice not be so voluminous, particularly on that sort of front desk, the requests and things coming out there. So again, it's that just thinking about what you want, because it can be expensive sometimes, let's be honest. There's that, it's an investment piece. So make sure it's addressing what you want it to address, and pick appropriately off the back of that. And also what the team need, because if you come in with like, we've got 4 new apps, lab equipment, things, it's that kind of piece there. And if you go with something, speak to the companies, get training, get them to support you. Again, you can't do it alone. There's a lot of them that have got a lot of great support and can help you use it to its maximum. And we often don't do that. A lot of the guys I speak to, we talk about different things with their sort of PMS and those stuff, and they're like, oh, I'm not sure if I can do that. I was like, speak to your provider. They will let you know. And certainly if they can't do it now, they may well develop it. That's how you need that feedback to kind of know what's going on and what's beneficial at the end of the day. So do your research. Well, first of all, think about what is it you're trying to address. Do the research, speak to people, get what you think is the right one, and then use it.
Yeah, I think the easy part that someone can forget is asking your provider what they can do for you.
Absolutely. It's a two-way street.
You can happily implement something with all the bells and whistles, but like you say, if there's no training, no support, no dialogue, no conversation, it's not going to be a whole lot of use for your team.
Exactly, that just becomes another thing that sort of sits there and doesn't do anything that you're paying for again. That's again, I'm looking at those things and it kind of comes back to cost saving. Are you paying for something currently you're not using? In all honesty, either if you're not using it, cut it, or speak to the provider and go, what can I do with this? Because otherwise it is just another thing that you've got to pay for.
Yeah. So Gemma, I'd love to chat a lot longer because it's a lot just fascinating pieces and insights and wisdom from you, especially with all your experience. And clearly you've got a very strong coaching mentality as well. I feel like I could listen to you forever. But I guess final takeaways, do you have any sort of top tips you want to leave with the audience and our listeners?
I think that, I'm going to use the word again, unprecedented, whatever, but we are in that sort of post-COVID, mid-cost of living, mid-recruitment crisis thing. There's always going to be another crisis. Let's be honest. They said that,
crisis.
Exactly that. So there's always going to be something. It's the nature of the world, how things go. So the key thing is to see that it's going to keep happening to a degree. So keep true to what is your purpose, why you do this, what is your vision. Think that big picture of what you're doing, and make a plan for where it is you want to go and have that bit and keep on that path. Things are going to shake you. It's completely natural, but keep on that path and having that big overarching aim to go towards. And bring your people along with you. I think that's the key thing there. You can't do it alone. Use the people you've got around you and let them support you and guide you, because we are all human at the end of the day. We can't do it all. We're going to make mistakes, but having the right people around us makes a big difference. And be honest as that level. If there's a lot to be said for being honest if you are struggling, you can't do it. So take time for yourself as well, because as a boss, a leader, responsible for people, there's a lot of pressure on there. So find a group of people, a support network of people around you that are there for you. And that's particularly what we do with Vet Dynamics and our groups and our community is the big thing there, is that you've got a lot of people that are wanting to help support each other. They are each other's biggest backers, cheerleaders, and kind of wanting that. And it is that network piece, but you can't do it alone. So find some good people and bring them along with you.
If practices were to reach out to you, can they just find you on the Vet Dynamics website?
Yep, easiest place to go, Vet Dynamics website. We've got all the information on there, and just reach out, whatever it is, I think is the honest answer. We're here for it. We know a lot of people if it's different things to help with, but that's what we're here for, is to help everybody do better. Really, that's the kind of whole point, is that it's a small industry. We want to help with all of that, whichever way that we can. So we're here for you, and by all means, just give us a shout, whatever it is you're after.
Yeah, we'll put on the blog post and this audio, this interview. And I would also say that as a reminder, I'm sure most professionals know that Vet Life is there, but just to mention its name, as you said,
Absolutely.
Mental health is a huge priority, but Vet Life are fantastic.
They are wonderful.
Yeah, you can call them up anytime. You can go to their website and they're there for any crisis, no matter how small you may think it is.
Exactly. I think that's a really key thing, is that you can't cross compare. There's a natural human nature. The thing of it is that my stuff's not that bad. No, we've all got baggage and scars and whatever it is. Just find someone you can talk to, because it is just that verbalizing of it. It's a judgment-free space. So yeah, Vet Life is absolutely fantastic. The work they do is really great. So absolutely reach out.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you, Gemma. Thanks so much for your insights.
Excellent. Thanks, Kim.
If you've got all the way to this point of the podcast episode, I'm impressed. It means you stuck through, or you just scrubbed your way through to the end. But either way, I hope you got some real fascinating, interesting and useful insights from Gemma's advice. Being a business coach and with all her experience, there definitely is value to what she is saying. But equally, I like the unique angle that she has, because she reminds us of things like, value isn't just in the pet treatment, but it's in your receptionist smile, it's your interactions with the clients, it's their experience as they check out or the follow-up comms that they receive. So it is indeed all the little things. Don't be afraid to put up your pricing. Invest in your people, invest in your resources. Take back time, do the planning. These are all great reminders to have a healthy, successful practice. Good luck with it all. As always, the additional resources are on our blog and at the end of this episode and podcast. Enjoy the rest of your month. Take care.